When I share my story, it's about more than building an inspirational space for artists. I represent the creative spirit of the nation, the Choctaw Nation.
I am our past.
I am our present.
I am our future.
I am all of us. When we share, we become one.
Because our stories make us more.
Stories keep our culture alive.
See them and share them at togetherwe'remore.com.
Hollywood! Lights, camera, action! Hollywood Brown. CD Lamb still running. It's a corner. CD for the TD.
People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
Welcome to Through the Keyhole in Oklahoma, a football podcast. I am one of your hosts, Payton Guthrie, in the lead chair today. Brady is out doing Brady stuff, but I am joined by the beautiful, beautiful Matt and the beautiful, beautiful, extremely smart. We got the best people over there with Alan as well. Matt and Alan. Alan with the little scoff. How you doing? How you holding up?
Oh man, I'm getting by and had a wonderful holiday weekend here. Actually, very nice weather. It was. It's normally about this time it starts really the temperature already started rising, but it was in the 70s. No rain until today. It was quite the Memorial Day weekend, so I feel great and am ready to talk a little college football.
Yeah, I did Murph the CrossFit workout Murph, and totally. And I'm usually pretty good at it, but I haven't done a CrossFit workout in about a year. Mm-hmm. And so it's got 100 push-ups. I mean, it's got 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, all that kind of stuff, the miles and everything that you have to run with it. I finished all the pull-ups. Halfway through the push-ups, I couldn't do a single push-up anymore. I was like, this is so weird. I'm used to being able to do this. And now I know what the problem is, because today I can't fully extend my arms. They're all kind of in an L shape. So I think I've done some temporary damage to the biceps. So hopefully they'll clear up pretty soon.
So,
Matt,
is this a group workout? Did you do this with a lot of people? Did they organize this
usually
for Memorial
Murph
Day?
Usually Murph is always done on Memorial Day or Memorial Day weekend to commemorate the lone survivor. No, not the lone survivor. The Murph guy who did it. The lone survivor guy. I can't remember his name. And it's usually like a community building thing. Everyone does it together. It's to do it prescribed RX. You wear a 20-pound weight vest, like you're in the Army, because CrossFit's all about cosplaying as you're in the Army. You run 1 mile, you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, you run a mile. Now, you can split up the movements however you want. You have to run a mile, then you can do 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 20, whether you can break that up as many times and rounds, and you run a mile. If we did it like there's like a competition, you could have won like this really cheap weight vest if you did it unpartitioned. So if you did all 100 pull-ups first and all 200 push-ups, so on and so forth. Usually it's a big community thing. I don't like big community workouts, so I did it by myself randomly. So it was super easy to quit.
Yeah,
because
right.
no one was around me. I was like, yeah, I'm done. This is it. But no, usually it's pretty good. But this year just kicked me right in the face. But as we go there, Matt, how are you doing? How was your Memorial Day?
It was great. I did not do 100 pull-ups or 200 push-ups, anything like that. So yeah, it was fantastic. But yeah, man, busy. I went to a lot of graduations. I say a lot, just one. It was just a long graduation. Is what it was. My wife's cousin graduated high school there at UConn High, and she was, which again, I don't know if it was definitely different when I was here. My wife thinks I'm making a bigger deal out of it than I need to. Her cousin was one of 9 valedictorians. So they do more than one valedictorian. I swear whenever I graduated, I just had a valedictorian and a salutatorian. I was neither one. So, I mean, she's already way past me in that point. But the multiple valedictorians, we kind of made a joke about it of like, it's kind of like a 2 QB system. If you have 2 QBs, then you don't have one. If you have 9 valedictorians, then you don't really have one. But no, shout out to her. She's going to OU. She's going to do a great job. So very smart, much smarter than I. So it was, big graduation weekend for us.
That honestly sounds like some woke liberal nonsense. To be honest with you.
the very woke town of Yukon, Oklahoma. Yes.
Handing out participation trophies there in Yukon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Hugo, so I can't even remember if we had a valedictorian, to be honest with you. But moving on, that's enough about us. People come here to listen to us talk about Oklahoma sports and mainly Oklahoma football. It is the off season, so we're going to try to fill that gap as much as we can. The best way of doing that is talk about stuff we make up. You can read that stuff over on through the keyholepod.com. Sorry, usually this is Brady talking, but keyholepod.com. You can check out our articles. Alan has his weekly Blatant Homers article. I'm going to start actually doing something on that website now. And then if you like that type of stuff and want to listen to more podcasts with us, I'm starting my summer conditioning podcast where I preview upcoming 2025 scheduled opponents. The Oklahoma-Michigan podcast will be out on the 28th, and that's over on the best website in the world, patreon.com/through the keyhole. Give us a support, $1, $4, $5 on those tiers. We'd be greatly appreciate it. Well, let's walk into it. Alan, on the blatant homerism, luckily for us, our good friend of the pod, Bill Conley wrote and released his latest SP Plus, and his first one he's done that's been public, not paywalled, in a very long, I think since he started at ESPN. What did you see on that initially? And it does seem like I've frozen.
No, I'm hearing you're okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Me all right?
You're okay. Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So what am I seeing from Bill Conley's numbers right now? I mean, apparently OU did a lot of good work in the spring portal, which was kind of surprising because most programs are looking at that, as kind of an afterthought. But, OU was able to land Jade Knott, out of Cal, obviously, and then also the Stanford offensive lineman, Jake Michaela, and he had, almost like 800 snaps last year. So from a production standpoint, you're importing a lot of production in those two and really losing hardly anything. I mean, Gavin Sawchuk, you net out what he, brought to the table, and you're really getting, you picked up essentially 4 touchdowns and about 450 yards from scrimmage. So, that was big for OU, moving OU up from, I believe, like 40th or 43rd in offensive S&P Plus to 25th. Special teams defense pretty much stayed the same, but that was good enough to bump OU from 20th to, I believe, around, it's 16 overall. Picked up about a field goal worth of, points in Bill's system. So, good spring for OU. Bad news is schedule did not get any easier. It's pretty much the same. You're looking at what Bill, predicts to be the toughest schedule in the country. You've got, I think, at least, let's see here. OU has 12 opponents, and half of them are in the top 13. Bama, Texas, LSU, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. And then you've got 3 more that are inside the top 25 with South Carolina, Missouri, and Auburn. So, you can still have the, team that's projected to be the 16th best in the country, kind of fighting for bowl eligibility based on those kinds of projections.
I kind of took some of that stuff and I went over to, I believe it's CFB numbers on Twitter at CFB numbers. He's got a cool little indicator where you can slide your confidence for each game. And I was even doing that, kind of walking through and being a little coward on some of these, right? Like, at Tennessee, 45%. Really, probably should have put that down to 40%. Stuff like that. Trying to give OU some hedging that as much as I could. And I could still only get OU to 7.9 projected wins just based off of where these teams are ranked at, how they're being put together, and the confidence in each of these things. I mean, Oklahoma, I was kind of riding the train of Oklahoma being 9-3. A great year. You're looking at 10-2. That's like a great year. John Mateer's going to New York, that whole thing. But the more I'm trying to look at it for a realistic side, I'm kind of getting more on board. Like 8 wins is going to be like potentially a high watermark for Brent Venables for the 2025 season. I mean, you talked about a little bit, independently offline about running against some of your power ratings. How are you seeing this Oklahoma team being able to weather these series of tests in 2025?
Well, looking at the numbers here, I mean, I went through and just, kind of put together some projected point spreads based on what Bill has here, and then added in home field advantage, gave team with home field I added 2.5 points. So I mean, OU is looking at what? Let's see here, games where they're an underdog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 12 games is an underdog. Um, and two of those games, I believe, they're double digit dogs. So I mean, that's rough. Now the thing is that we're going based on projections, and I have a feeling that some of these won't hold up. I mean, right now, I suspect that Ole Miss won't come in as a very short favorite. When they're playing OU in the middle of the season. My guess is, and assuming everything kind of bounces the way it usually does with normal rates of attrition and whatnot. I mean, OU will probably be more like a short favorite there. A game like Tennessee, I have OU's plus 4.5 at in Knoxville. That part later in the season with the kind of the upheaval Tennessee's gone through, I think that could be closer to a pick. So it's just a brutal schedule. There's no real other way to put it. Even the non-conference. I mean, I think that there's expectation out there. Bill's numbers certainly seem to think so, that Michigan is going to take some steps forward. The idea of Michigan plus OU being an potential short underdog at home against Michigan. I mean, on top of having all these other tough games in the conference slate, OU's not getting anything. Not really getting any breaks there. I mean, let's keep in mind this conference schedule. I think the worst team that OU has on the schedule is Auburn at 25 and Mizzou at 21. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I doubt there's been a schedule that has, can kind of match up with that, maybe ever. I don't know. It's week after week after week, a lot of tough games.
You and I, we seem a little bit, I don't want to say we're like doing the whole doom and gloom of everything. But it does seem we're trying to be somewhat pragmatic when it comes to projecting and predicting Oklahoma's 2025 season. Like you mentioned, every single opponent in conference that they're playing so far is in the top 25 of this, spring, everything of that nature. How much of this do you think is like fool's gold? Like I can look at Auburn and think if they're truly going to roll out Jackson Arnold as QB1, that's not a top 25 rated team. Sometimes like that, you can just think, okay, that's going to be 3 or 4 plays on either side in which OU can just skirt by or something of that nature and kind of grow that side of it. And then also on Oklahoma's side, what if John Mateer lives up to his trends, right? At 500 snaps, whatever, he's well beyond the curve line of a projected QB1 at this point in time. He's outperforming what an average QB would be at this point in time within the amount of snaps he's had. If he can continue that trend of overperforming, do you think that really kind of rockets Oklahoma up the ladder here? Or is this so much of this is baked into offensive line depth across the league, defensive line depth across the league, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think that maybe the gains would be from places we don't expect. For example, like a Giovanni Gibson. If he's able to make, Brent Venables was talking today, I guess, about him potentially being ready at the beginning of the season. I doubt that's going to happen just personally, but, how much can he contribute? Because, his production, for example, isn't really factored in here. But I mean, let's talk about your example with Auburn, right? They're coming, Jackson Arnold, was, right now, maybe they're starting quarterback. But, there's also, Stanford starter from last year is on that roster. Mm-hmm. Now, you've also got the, one of the better regarded high school quarterbacks, freshman quarterbacks coming in. Deuce Knight, I believe is his name. I mean, look, I don't think Arnold is the answer for Auburn, but there's a whole lot of talent around Arnold. Auburn has a very, very talented roster. Take a look at who their receivers are, for example. I mean, that group is stacked. So when you factor that in, maybe if Arnold is a starter, that means he's possibly held off those other two quarterbacks. He's got other guys around him. I mean, I don't really know what those kinds of things look like, but the point being, quarterback play is important, but it's not the number one thing. I mean, as bad as Jackson Arnold was for OU last year, for example, I think we can also say there were a whole lot of other things that went wrong for that team. So, those are the kinds of things that I'm looking at. Just, I mean, don't forget, OU lost to a Missouri team last year that was quarterbacked by Drew Pine, right? I mean, a lot goes into, a team's performance. But I do think that it's hard to figure out, for example, though, what Mateer, I mean, I tend to think he's going to end up living up to billing. But it's, without knowing that, it's hard. I think in all honesty, if you're asking me, like, what is the one thing that I'd be looking at here that is working in OU's favor? I mean, first of all, like, I know that people hate blaming stuff on injuries, but OU's injury situation last year was extreme. The amount of the discontinuity that kind of, if you kind of look at how many how snaps were distributed, who was getting whatnot. I mean, OU's numbers were some of the worst in the country from a injury standpoint. So there's that. The other thing that I'd be thinking about, though, is, and I brought this up before, but OU fumbled the ball so much last year. I'm not just talking about losing fumbles, although they lost a lot, but the more you fumble, the more opportunities there are for you to lose possession. And OU fumbling, I think it was like 26 times in 13 games. I mean, when you're doing that, if you're not, you're giving the other team opportunities for takeaways. If OU can cut those down, that alone right there, it's just a numbers game. There'll be fewer turnovers, and then you're looking at situations where maybe you're getting some better luck. So, in terms of translating performance into wins, that's in my opinion going to be a big part of it. If OU has kind of if OU wants to really get beyond the 6-7 win range.
Are you ready for the new era of sports in Oklahoma? Want to be ready for some real Southern football? Kaizen Performance in Norman, Oklahoma is your spot for physical and mental growth. By empowering a lifestyle of constant, continuous improvement, Kaizen Performance's gym experience lends itself from the experienced training fanatics to those who want to make a positive change in their lives and everyone in between. Come see their new location at 158 Armstrong Court in Norman, Oklahoma. With experienced trainers who understand that every client has individual desires and needs, in-person and online customized training programs and nutrition plans, Kaizen Performance has everything to offer for you to meet your goals. Again, their new location is 158 Armstrong Court, Norman, Oklahoma, 73071. Seriously, Brady works out there, and so does Payton when he comes to home games. Come work out with us and get ready for the week-to-week grind of real Southern football. Kaizen Performance, Norman's own local gym where your goals are a workout away.
Yeah, no, Bill Conley actually had another article just about how lucky teams were and if they overcame some turnovers and stuff. And he had Oklahoma's kind of in the middle of the road right there. They weren't too unlucky and they weren't that lucky. And again, he's just looking at the total number of turnovers, of giveaways and takeaways, right? But if you remove that Temple game where Oklahoma just took the ball from them whenever they wanted to.
Yeah, I think they had something. They were like +6, right? Yeah.
It's an incredibly unlucky football team. I mean, they had some good things that broke their way. Auburn, obviously, things of that nature. But Oklahoma just turned the ball over a ton. It was like a Herculean effort for the defense to get Oklahoma to basically a net neutral on the giveaway turnover stuff. I mean, you just can't keep living on that side of it. I guess the final piece here, I feel like I'm just grilling you about your article. Were there any surprises that you saw of that? Like you're like, oh well, like I'm not gonna lie to you. Michigan is a lot higher than I would have assumed them to be. And then when I had my podcast with a Michigan writer and blogger, they've got me really hyped up on Michigan, but you're talking to a blogger and stuff like that, so it's going to happen that way. That's a team that I was like, okay, I did not see this team perform that way, but maybe there's something I'm not quite seeing there. Was there a team that stood out for you on this initial spring ratings that made you kind of pause and like, okay, let me rethink, let me look under the hood and rethink what I thought about that team?
Yeah, Michigan didn't surprise me that much just because they recruit so well, and that's almost always going to be, factor in with Bill's numbers. Man, I just don't like. I have a hard time. It's kind of hard because it's hard to slag off on Penn State. I mean, you're talking about a team that they played in the semifinals last year, but like, I mean, who did that team? What was that team's best win? I mean, I just can't. I can't. Get there with that with that whole thing. And now they're number 3. I understand it's the numbers of the numbers, but like if that's the 3rd best team in the nation, literally, like from an objective standpoint, this is going to be a horrible year for college football. Like, because I'm sorry, I just don't like. My eyes tell me that is a good team, but not particularly top 3. That's one. Then I guess
this was also kind of a thing with Penn State last year too. Is they have a 2-game schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Oregon at home and then at Ohio State, excuse me. That's really it.
Right. I don't know. Who do they have in the non-conference? Anybody good? I don't know.
Villanova, FIU, and Nevada.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just, okay. Yeah. See, again, like it's just kind of one of those things where so much in college football, how you end up stacking up at the end really depends a whole lot on who you end up playing, doesn't it? I mean, you're going to look great, if you, I mean, and to be fair, there are a lot of teams and a lot of coaches out there that when they should win 10 games based on an easy schedule like that, can't do it. So that's credit to Penn State for being able to do that. But I just don't see a team that I think can, go toe to toe really with a lot of the good teams in the Big Air, probably in the SEC. I don't think if they had a tougher slate in the Big Ten, I don't know if they'd make it through. So that's the one that stands out to me. Like I have a hard time believing Ole Miss is going to end up, as high where they are. But the one thing is that quarterback they have. I mean, he's good. I think that long term he ends up maybe being better than Dart, the guy they have in there right now. Super talented guy. A team that. And then I guess the other thing is, it really stood out to me. It's hard to say like Texas has a weak schedule, right? Because you're talking about. I think they were in the top 20. Maybe they were like they were 12th overall, right? So you can't just be like, oh, Texas has a weak schedule. But when you compare them to everyone else in the SEC, it kind of stands out that they're 11th out of 16 teams, and they have an out of conference game against the number 1 team in the rankings here in Ohio State, right? I mean, that kind of goes to show how good of a break they got with the SEC scheduling.
Yeah, I mean, to push back and not push back, to kind of circle back on the Penn State stuff, the playoff talk, and we'll get into it a little bit later, the playoff talk, the Indiana, Alabama stuff's it's resurfacing. And I keep scratching my head saying, like, if we're mad about Indiana, then why are we just like looking right past Penn State? It's like the exact same, argument where it's like all they did was make their layups and they couldn't make a free throw to save their life type of thing. The opposite of the OKC Thunder at that point in time. But it's something on that side of it. I do feel like my internet is dying on me. I'm not entirely for sure. It's a reoccurring issue here. Am I somewhat non-robotic?
No, I'm hearing you fine.
You sounded fine throughout the whole thing. Your video is.
You guys just freeze for me.
But
okay. I just talk and you guys don't move. I'm thinking like, okay, it's Payton. Keep talking, keep talking. I'm the Wile E. Coyote. It's like, don't look down. No, but yeah, the Penn State thing is, to me, that's just the biggest thing where it's like the Big Ten teams, because their conference is so top heavy, I could see why and we'll get into it, while the SEC may be thinking like, okay, listen, something's got to get figured out here. They're not playing the same level than we are at that point in time. But they are sure as hell trying to make sure Texas is playing the Big Ten style schedule. As you mentioned, right? It's like you're going to play the top two guys and go for it. I have seen some, maybe it was Andy Staples or Ari kind of tweeted out they think Texas is going to win the national championship, and he has them beating Oregon, Ohio State, and Georgia in the playoffs, which means potentially they'd beat Ohio State twice and potentially beat Georgia 3 times. It's like, okay, that's just the best season of all time.
Yeah, right.
If you were to pull that off, or something along that way, I just can't see it. I don't think they're going to be tested enough to be able to withstand a slog like that, to run into it like that on that side of it. Let's jump into the next point. I actually wrote something for the website about Oklahoma and stability, talking about how our roster, the Oklahoma students roster, is built versus how it's built on the top end side of the SEC. I compared Oklahoma's roster to Texas. It's a dreaded Texas, but you got to compare them. It's the rival. It's a part of it. Alabama and Georgia. I think OU fans would want to be in that Georgia, Alabama, Texas tier. That talking area right now, as opposed to where they are now, where they're winning 6 games, and trying to compare how this is at that point in time. Now, what you're seeing across the board for Georgia, Texas, and Alabama is that they're on average taking in about 8 transfers a year. Now they lose a pretty decent amount themselves, but again, not nearly as amount as Oklahoma is, and they are completely, what am I trying to say here? They're being able to pick what they want. Oklahoma's having to take in, on average, 17 to 18 players a year, and it doesn't seem like they're getting the pick of the litter. They're having to, like, by need, go and get some players to kind of fill out the rest of this roster, either due to misevaluations or just complete roster turnover. Oklahoma they're losing 25 players every single year to the portal before graduations, before early NFL departures. Oklahoma's borderline losing half of its football team every single year Brent's been head coach. It just not seem to be a tenable situation for a coach to be in at that point in time. Alan, you and I have talked quite a lot about the portal. When I lay it out kind of as bluntly as that, do you think the reality of OU football is too far gone to be at the upper tier this way? Or do you think Oklahoma is going to have to be, throw stability to the wind and say, this is a new game? Oklahoma's going to have to figure this out in the portal, because they're not going to be able to recruit the same level as Georgia, Alabama, or Texas.
Yeah, I think that OU, I don't think that you have to be, to win national championships, you don't necessarily have to be like in the top 3 every year recruiting wise, right? But OU needs to be consistently finishing like in the top 10, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty fair in terms of high school recruiting. And for the long-term stability and health of the program. And the more that OU's had to dip, focus on transfers, the harder it's going to be to keep that influx of younger talent coming in, right? So at some point they're going to have to figure out a strategy that, either they're able to get like a hard break off of the portal, or it's like some type of weaning process, right? Where they're kind of taking themselves off. But, teams, I think they had, how many high school players did OU have in its recruiting class this year? Was it just 14? Like, that's not.
Yeah, something of that nature. It was in the low teens, yeah.
That's just not, they can't, that might be able to work for, one-off years or something like that, but they can't live that way. So part of what they're going to have to figure out is, at some point it might take a significant investment just to keep everybody in place, or kind of just being willing to take a hit and say we need to bottom out for a year. I honestly don't know the best way to get off of it, because it's this kind of just feedback loop where, you have to bring in transfers and then to fill their shoes, you have to bring in more transfers the next year and then the next year. The other thing would be what happens if they're able to eventually reach a point where they can lock in players for multiple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, then, once you have those contracts in place, maybe it's a little bit easier to make the investments you need in short term, or pardon me, in new, high school kids. I'm not sure, but I think that the portal, the transfer portal, is just this kind of, a lot of times it's kind of like a clearance rack almost, and there's just not what you need to be a national championship contender or even like a conference championship contender, right?
Yeah, I kind of left that article kind of open ended to kind of allow the reader to kind of come to their conclusion about how they think Oklahoma should, I think as I put it, get out of the tailspin of the portal and get out of there. Because I do think taking more than double than what like the top of the conference is taking in, Oklahoma's acting more like an Ole Miss or a Missouri at this point in time than the top of the conference. And if you're at the top of the conference, you don't need to bring in these guys because, well, you're recruiting well. And what does recruiting well mean? Recruiting well means you're evaluating guys correctly. Mm-hmm. Your 3-star guys are staying in the program because they're good enough to stay in the program. What's happening at Oklahoma a lot is that a lot of these 3-star guys are just complete washouts. Like they are not sticking around. And that's supposed to be kind of the foundation of your class, especially a place like Oklahoma. Like they're not going to sign 80% blue chips like a Georgia does every single year. Like it's going to be close to 60% or something like that. And you need these 3-star guys to hit at a decent ratio, and it's just not happening. It's not happening under Brent, and I'm not for sure why of that. So I'm hoping with Nagy coming in that there is a different evaluation part that's happening.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind though too is like OU's problems on the offensive line, I think, are contributing to this a lot because you're talking about 5 spots, right?
Yes.
And OU did not do a good job leading into, kind of the players that would be filling those spots now. So you had to go with this grab bag of, Spencer Brown and Michael Tarquin and Garen Hatchett and, these guys who – we're at best going to be, stopgaps at best, and all of a sudden those are like supposed to be the, your top contributors. So the turnover there shouldn't really surprise a lot of people, and it's not been what you want to see, obviously. And again, needing to fill out 5 spots. That. You just think about if it takes, for example, 2 or 3 guys recruited to just come up with one guy who can contribute, that's a lot of spots down the line, yeah. Right?
Yeah, if you really look at where Oklahoma's been having to spend most of its time in the portal, as you said, is offensive line, quarterback, and cornerback. And what have we seen? They can't block anybody, they can't pass the ball, and they can't stop the pass. It's like these are the areas they're getting stuck in, and they're not able to replicate that talent that they're recruiting on the other positions. Now, Oklahoma, I will say, maybe this is like a weird kind of a pat on the back. Like I said, Oklahoma, I've got some like little charts I made in Excel, stuff like that. Davis is really proud of me for doing it. Oklahoma is bringing in a decent amount of incoming talent via the portal. Like they are replacing talent more than they're losing. And to get that star rating pretty close to the recruiting while bringing in 15 to 20 players a year means Oklahoma is at least doing a pretty good job of bargain shopping, right? They're not bringing in just like the dredges of talent and just saying we just need a beating heart here. They are at least able to fulfill like a baseline level of talent at that point in time. The issue is that like Texas, Alabama, Georgia, when they bring somebody in, it's like a 5-star guy. It's a 4-star guy. It's like they get this guy and say, okay, this is wide receiver 2, day 1, stuff of that. In Oklahoma's having to bring people in as like camp bodies and things of that nature. It's a different system that we're seeing right here. But the thing I was kind of leaning on about this article was about the idea of like external in the external, measures of success, which is, wins and losses. It's the easiest way to measure it. Did you win games? Did you lose games? And then the internal, measure of success, which potentially is like stability. Is the program stable? Are you recruiting well? Are you evaluating well? And if Brent is in a total win now mode, I could see him say, take every single portal guy we can. Like, I need to win right here, right now. But now you have a GM in here who's maybe thinking like, hey, I'm looking at 5 years from now. I'm looking at taking in guys, where are they going to be in 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and trying to build some level of stability on this side of it. Do you think those two can align, or is the win now model versus the stability side always going to be at odds with each other at this point in time? Or do you think there's a way to kind of thread that needle in modern day? And maybe this question disappears immediately once the house stuff comes through, because you mentioned like there's some contracts and everything of that nature. But do you think a coach, let's just remove Venables out of it, can focus on the win now stuff while GM can focus on these long-term visions of a program and its stability for this entire program?
Well, I mean, I look at it and think, specifically, for example, like, let's think about what the situation OU is in right now, right? Where, I mean, this team is constructed. They clearly put a lot of resources into giving Venables an opportunity to win this season. I mean, they've supported him with all that, and these are early days for Jim Nagy. I mean, his influence on the roster is fairly muted compared to where it will be probably going forward, right? So, I mean, I see the whole balancing win now versus building for the future. I think that works itself out, because if Brent is able to win this season, keep his job, you get Nagy then taking over, looking more. I mean, the idea that he maybe buys himself some time this year, kind of takes the pressure off for that long term, or for the short term build. But what you might end up seeing is, if it's someone like, what you're hoping is that someone like Jim Nagy is going to be the stabilizing force in personnel, right? And is the one in charge of that balance of making sure, hey, we're filling in gaps, but also building for the future. Because, I mean, we've seen it with other coaches have done this, have made similar moves, and, hasn't worked out in the past, and it can be a setback for the program as a whole. So, what you might end up seeing too is, at a place like OU, if Nagy's, charge is to, for the most part, kind of, keep the program healthy consistently, you might see coaches actually get a shorter leash going forward, where they're not being put in a position where they have more say or more influence if they get into a situation where it's a win now kind of thing. But I don't know.
And to be honest with you, my entire premise of the article, the more I've kind of poked around everything, does seem to be somewhat off base. So maybe in my personification of the win now versus the stability, the more and more I poked around, it does seem to be Brent as the guy who's like, we gotta give this kid 7 years. He's going to turn the corner. and Nagy's much more like, he's been in the program for 15 minutes. He's not good. We got to go. It does seem to be like the GM is actually much more of the hatchet man than I thought he was going into it. Which is, at that point in time, potentially even more interesting, because the guy who's supposed to be looking at potentially like long-term stable stuff is thinking purely looking at it from an NFL model, where it's, you are turning over half your team basically every single year due to draft and free agency and things of that nature, which is, I'm not for sure how that works in college football. Now, like you said earlier, this probably all takes care of itself with the house and whatever Ted Cruz is trying to do. So maybe all this is for naught. But it's an interesting kind of thought, exercise for me, at least, trying to stretch the mind out of it. Matt, I'm going to bring you on because I haven't asked you a single question yet, and I apologize. Horrible host. We've been talking about Oklahoma and the portal and trying to build this stuff out. What's your take on it? I mean, do you want to see OU keep exploring the portal in this way? I mean, there's more and more players every single year. It breaks the record for as many players who are in the portal.
Yeah.
I mean, is there enough talent to get out of it to succeed? Or do you want Oklahoma to kind of lean more towards that Clemson model of saying like, we'll take a guy, but it's going to be like 2 and it's got to be like an extreme position of need, or he's outworldly talented.
I'm kind of confused on how it'll work going forward, because I bring this up a lot, but when Brent first got introduced as head coach, he did not want to use the transfer portal. Like he wanted to go like almost full Dabo, but obviously after that first year and really after the second year, you kind of had to. I mean, you just had like a mass exodus. You had to fill out a roster. And then I don't think they've been able to break that cycle. I don't think they just have not been able to break that cycle with 2 6 and 7 seasons coming in there. And now I think Brent would still probably say the same answer. Like he would love to just get back to recruiting and then filling in some gaps where needed in the transfer portal. That's where the hiring of Jim Nagy definitely does not confuse me, but I'm wondering how they will balance that and what kind of marriage that'll be, because I feel like maybe that's where Nagy was brought in to kind of let him cook, in the transfer portal, right? Use those connections to some of those smaller schools of guys that, he would normally take at the Senior Bowl, and maybe take him and have him try to pan out at Oklahoma. So I don't know. It's weird. We were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier today on this show, but I don't know what that marriage is going to be like, when I'm sure that Brent is, and much like any college coach, I'm sure would be, like, you've spent years recruiting these kids and recruiting their families and stuff like that. And then you have a guy that's the GM that is kind of being cutthroat, and you're trying to keep a hold of these guys that you've recruited, you've believed in, you've recruited their families. And then a guy that's might be on like a similar level as you in the pecking order is like, no, well, he's not producing. You got to go. Like, I don't know how that's going to play out. I would lean toward more so a cutthroat thing, but that's just me. And that's just the situation that OU is in. But as far as Brent going forward in the portal, I just honestly, guys, I do not see a way how you can get out of that. It's almost like, the Pineapple Express line is like Pandora's already out of the box, right? He doesn't go back. He doesn't go back in. Yeah.
No, but the one thing I would caution people on, because it's funny, I've seen, let's say, other media personalities from different programs commenting on OU's the status of OU's program at the moment and their strategies going forward. And I would be very careful in making any hard and fast conclusions about how Nagy is going to do business or what have you, based on these early returns, because none of these dudes, he didn't have a hand in evaluating any of the guys who have been taken into the program recently. So before we start making drawing all these hard and fast conclusions about what Nagy wants to do, I think we need to kind of see how that part of things plays out. And it's still very early days in that regard.
And honestly, too, I think that you brought Jim Nagy in for a reason. I think you let him do his job the way that he sees it fit. So, and again, I think we all agreed whenever this hire was made that this was not a hire specifically for Brent Venables. Like, if shit goes awry this year, Brent's probably gone. Like, if Brent goes 5 and whatever, he might be gone again. But Jim Nagy's still going to be there. So I think you just have to let Jim Nagy kind of let him cook a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, on to the wider world of college football. The playoffs are back, baby. We never stop talking about them. It's either realignment or playoff expansion to the heat death of the universe. We're here. It keeps us alive talking here. If you've been online for the last 2 days, It's been a lot of back and forth about what format this 16 team that this 16 team playoff should have. What sort of automatic qualifier should they have? Should they have automatic bids for by conference? And if so, how many per conference? Things of that nature. I guess, Alan, are we just living in the SEC and Big Ten world and the rest of the conferences just kind of have to deal with it?
I mean, yes. I don't know. I mean, I've honestly I've never been more sick of college football than I am at this point, and particularly just the SEC. I mean, because, I mean, look, I get it. Like, yeah, it's really hard. No one's disputing that, but it's kind of like, it's really hard because all the SEC teams get all this money and they recruit all these good players. They have all these, they are leveraging and pressing all their advantages. Many of them, to be fair, have been built up over time historically, but this whole deal about like, oh man, where would Alabama be if we didn't play our schedule? Like, I don't know, losing in the first or second round of the playoff, like, every other team besides Ohio State and, whatever, Notre Dame. I mean, it's this deal where clearly what the SEC wants to do is they're trying to, they're really making kind of a maximization play here. So they can if they add a ninth conference game, they'll get extra money for that. And then, but if they do that, like, there's no way around it. They're going to end up losing playoff bids if they don't get a guaranteed number, right? So that's why they're doing this deal where now, okay, they're not only going to get the extra money from from adding that ninth game, they're also going to get money for a guarantee of at least 4 teams every year, right? So, keep in mind that's a guarantee of a floor of 4 teams. There would be nothing stopping them from getting 5. So, I mean, I get it. It's just, the whole thing is just like, I mean, I get why they, from a competitive standpoint, why they want, these guarantees and whatnot, but man, it just doesn't feel like I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a particularly compelling solution to me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only way to really solve for the problem is to completely restructure the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically say it's the P4, nobody else. Everyone else gets shoved into a G5. You have your own playoffs. P4 teams only play each other, and there's going to be some sort of scheduling body that handle strength of schedule and scheduling. You no longer allow the teams to schedule for themselves. It's like you have your conference, and then you drop everyone 8 games. You do 4 4 out of conference games. They have to be P4 teams, and those are scheduled via a third party scheduling committee or something of that nature to do strength of schedule across the board. And that's like the only way you could do it, where you could pretend to try to get to an equitable schedule across all of these teams. But I just don't know if these conferences would be willing to do something like that to let go of that much power on it. I guess the other side of it is like Sankey and everybody in the Big Ten, they're talking a really big game, right? Like, how much longer should we be in the NCAA? Do we need to walk away from the table and all this type of stuff? We've had people on before and talk about this quite a lot, where these people are allowed to talk for sure, but ESPN is going to be the one who tells them what to do. Fox is going to be the one that tells them what to do because they're the ones paying all the money. Do you think this is just the outcome that these TV talk to you, Matt, these TV providers want? Do they want a super league? Just say, yeah, every week it's going to be Oklahoma, Ohio State. It's going to be Texas, some other team, Clemson, stuff like that every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% what the TV people want, for sure. Yeah, the Super League, I feel like, is kind of inevitable. It's more so just like when instead of if. I feel like that's where we're heading. It's just been heading that way for a while, and I think especially when I mean, I've had this take, like the group of five, like just you're technically, if everything is all equal, you're technically playing for the same national championship, but you're not, though. I mean, and everyone knows that, and they haven't been forever. So you're technically doing it, but I think it's time. Maybe it's just the natural evolution of things, and maybe it's the I don't know, greed, if you will, of the has-beens, that the people that have been there. But I feel like it's almost a natural evolution of things more so than like, oh, this sport is dying. I think it's just evolving, and if there's one thing that people hate, it's change, especially to things that they love. People hate change more so than anything.
Yeah, the thing that I'm seeing here is that it does seem like maybe the SEC and the Big Ten, they're kind of saying like, hey, this is going to be the end result anyway, right? If House passes, like Iowa State was already on record, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, saying like, we can afford the first couple of years of doing the full revenue share, but after that, we're going to have to look into private equity to continue making these payments because we have to in order to play the game. And they're going to spend, some of these teams are going to end up spending themselves broke. I remember a few years ago, an Oklahoma State writer was saying, okay, what will it take for Oklahoma State to win a national championship? And this really, really well-written article, and basically it says what it's going to take is for Oklahoma State to produce an extra $50 million in revenue. Just to be able to spend in the same stratosphere as an actual championship winning team. And they haven't done that. Like, they're going to go broke paying the players. Like, they don't, or they're going to have to cut every other single sport they have, which becomes Title IX, so on and so forth. So I think there's going to be a natural contraction of P4 teams or something that just can't afford to play the game anymore at this level. And I think maybe the SEC teams and the Big Ten teams are the only ones that are somewhat insulated from it just due to the amount of TV money they have. And they already see the right. Everyone sees the writing on the wall. But the teams with the money are more willing to go ahead and say, this is already where we're going to be. Let's just go ahead and accelerate to that point.
Okay, but like, hold on. Where does that end?
And I don't know how you survive.
Well, but like, no, let's think about it. So that's a natural, it's a natural, right? It's a natural contraction process of contraction, right? But like, okay, let's say we're going to take 30 teams, right? I mean, unless all those teams are able to spend at the exact same level, like you have in the NFL with the salary cap, for example, like a hard salary cap, like, you're eventually setting up to where you'll have some teams that are able to spend a whole lot more than others, right? So then you've pared it down from 120 to 30. Now you're going to have, but then like, let's say Arkansas is one of those 30, and Arkansas is like, this isn't fun. Like, we're only in here to be cannon fodder for Alabama and Ohio State. We're winning one game every year because we can't spend what they're spending. So then Arkansas bolts out, and then everybody. I mean, at some point, like this is just you might as well get to like 10 teams and just let them go for it. You know what I mean? Like, Sankey did make that point today about how the NFL only has 30 teams, and it's highly regulated. I don't think that if you're Ohio State and Alabama, you're going to really want to, be in a situation where you can't press all the advantages that you built up historically. But at the same time, if you don't have a world where like, there's more than just those teams out there, what are you going to, to me, it just doesn't work. Like and I just don't know if people are kind of actually thinking about what this looks like in practice and why they watch college football in the first place.
Yeah, you're right. You watch college football for a much different reason than the NFL. The NFL, you're watching for the parity. You're watching for that stuff, right? That's the fun part of it. For college football, you're watching for dominance and you're watching for the Cinderella. And if that doesn't exist, I don't know if that's going to work, because you're right. Alabama getting to play Vanderbilt, you get both sides of it. You get the dominant side of Alabama, and you get every once in a while the Cinderella part of Vanderbilt. for that side. Last year was an amazing game, an amazing story. What's that quarterback Pavia was able to sell some T-shirts, all that kind of stuff out of, and it kind of tells that story. But if now Alabama's is just playing Ohio State, just playing Michigan, and they have the exact same level of resources as they do, it loses some of that charm. It's a JFK thing. Why does Rice play Texas? Like, that doesn't exist anymore. And it's not able to, I want to get somewhat philosophical. It loses its ability to reflect upon society the way that it has in the past. And I guess from that thought process, if everybody's a crypto guy now and everyone's trying to scam everyone else, maybe the correct reflection of society would be to move to this super league and just completely hollow it out of any soul it has left on that side of it.
Yeah, but again, like college
that was kind of a darker thing
owners,
to talk about.
Yeah, no, but like college football teams don't have owners, right? So like, again, what incentive do I have to do that? I mean, I don't know. The one thing, like, I will caution everybody, like, these people who are running this stuff, Greg Sankey is not some fucking genius. Okay. Neither is anybody who's running the stuff at the Big Ten. They never have been. Most of the time they just are standing there looking at a term sheet from ESPN and saying, okay, yeah, no, I think that looks good or not. I mean, guys, be critical and be skeptical of the plans that these people are making, because they don't really know any better than you and me. I promise you. Just because they have commissioner next to their name, that doesn't make them like these oracles. So keep that in mind as we're thinking about the long-term health of all this stuff.
I want to be clear that I was not calling for the Super League to happen. It just feels inevitable. That's where it's heading.
It does.
And it is a shame. No, it is a shame because like I said, man, people, and I'm human just like the rest of you. Like, we love college football, and I'm human in the fact that I don't like things that I love changing that much. Like making such drastic changes. I'm with everybody in that. It just sucks, but it feels like this is sort of inevitable where we're heading with college football.
And you're right. I mean, even the TV providers, ESPN and Fox and stuff, I mean, ESPN's dreadful at this. They're sending out like their fifth broadcast team who's doing remote from Cincinnati, onto a team. Like they're just talking about like against the green screen. They have no idea what's happening. I think it does kind of feel like they're doing the insuredification of the product to say, well, the only good product is when Oklahoma plays Texas. When Colorado State's playing Iowa State, that's just garbage. No one watches that. And it kind of seems like I know they're not, but man, it does seem like they're trying to self-sabotage that ever so slightly, or just not putting any resources behind it because it's not making money.
Yeah.
Right. If it's not making money, then why am I going to put resources behind it? And then that in and of itself creates this self-fulfilling prophecy on that side of it. I want to end on a better note than that. The Thunder do seem like they're going to go on and win the NBA championship. So congrats to you guys, I guess. See if I can jinx that as much as I can. Matt, I guess give me the good news on the Thunder. I mean, you guys are a team of Velociraptors on one side, and then French poodles on offense.
Don't do this. Don't you dare do this.
Does it? I will say that I'm going to go ahead and prompt that. That is the reason why the foul merchant stuff is happening, is because Oklahoma City has the most aggressive, most physical defense I've ever seen. I do like watching it. I think it's very good that defense can play that way. But the moment they have the ball in their hand, they act like they're toddlers. And I think that juxtaposition kind of like causes the viewer's brain to short circuit slightly. But they are extremely brutally, bloodlessly efficient, which is terrible for me to watch as a Spurs fan. But give me what are you thinking? What are you thinking? They're closing out. Is this the best chance Oklahoma City has for a title?
I believe yes. To your last question, I think that it is. I think that everyone's hate is being sent the wrong way. Hate the officials. I don't know what else to say. The Thunder get after it on defense, and it's awesome to watch. And I think you're hating the player. You're not hating the game. You need to hate the game in this situation there. Now with Shea, the foul baiting stuff, I don't like the free throw merchant stuff because that implies that he can't score without the free throw line, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The foul baiting stuff, we can have a little discourse on that. The reason he's doing it is to try to get those guys to not reach in, and not like that. He's wanting as much space as possible to get his shot off. And when they're not doing it, he's catching them. He's kind of like catching them with the hand in the cookie jar. But as far as the Thunder as a whole, that was an impressive win in Game 4, man. The Minnesota Timberwolves, the bench for the Timberwolves shot 12 of 20 from 3. They were on fire, especially Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dante DiVincenzo. So for the Thunder to win a game like that, where they lost almost every stat category, for them to win that on the road, incredibly impressive. And then, they turned the Wolves over 21 times. That first quarter, I was like, okay, yeah, they were letting both teams get away with a lot. And I was like, if this continues, this is not the game the Timberwolves want to play, because the Oklahoma City's defense will just keep hounding them, and they did. So, we'll see what it goes. I will say, I think that the Thunder probably match up better. Like, again, Mark Dagnall would not like me saying this because it's a 0-0 mindset with that guy. He wants a 0-0 mindset. They're not in the NBA Finals yet. But I'm not Mark Dagnall, so I can talk about it. If they go to the finals, the Pacers do make me a little bit nervous. I'll be honest. I mean, Pascal Siakam, been an NBA champion, awesome player. I think that the Thunder match up really well with the Knicks. If the Knicks somehow get past, I think Jalen Brunson will he will be in hell the entire series. Cat will have a good one, but the Thunder would make Josh Hart go 7 of 12 from 3 to beat him. Like they're going to make him shoot so many threes. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a good time right now. It's a good time. And I missed, so it's been a long, long time since the Thunder have been truly like title contenders. And I forget what being the hated team feels like. And I gotta be honest, it's a great feeling. It's a fantastic feeling to listen to all the complaining, all the bitching and moaning. It fuels me. It fuels the fire. And everyone out there that is an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, embrace it. Just stop trying to fight it. Just embrace it and love it.
Matt's dedicating his postseason to the haters. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I will say there's a guy I follow on Twitter, Miles Brown. He did write a very interesting article about like the loss of cool, how the NBA used to be like a leader in the culture and stuff. And he's like, if you see everything now, and he also kind of talked about Zen culture. He's like, Zens are just uncool. Like smoking cigarettes is like, he's like, it sucks. It's super cool. But like putting Zen, no one knows what you're doing. Like it's like you're losing this cool factor type of a thing. And he kind of talked about the OKC and about Tatum. He's like, none of these people are cool. Like we've lost cool. Like it just doesn't exist anymore. But I will say, I'll get off before we can say it. The funniest thing I saw on Twitter, it was like a 60-second reel. And it's like what Oklahoma City's rim used to see. And it's like 30 seconds of Russell Westbrook's like dunking, the most vicious dunks you've ever seen in life. And then it's 30 seconds of Shea just shooting free throws. And it was just the funniest thing I've seen in a very long time. But I want to get off on that. Spurs go. And also Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Deion Sanders. You know the whole game. But thank you guys for doing this. Please check us out over on keyholepod.com. And again, I apologize if we had any stuttering on here. I think myself had some internet issues, which are just kind of ongoing. Go check us out on patreon.com/the-keyhole. And then starting in the fall, I'm going to go ahead and announce it. We'll have some home field apparel benefits kind of coming out to you guys as they'll be jumping on as a sponsor. We got them hooked on the line. So hopefully maybe we get like some sort of code or something. We'll work on that. So keep an ear out for that stuff as well. Thank you also for Kaizen Fitness for helping us out as you do every single month. And to the great Choctaw Nation, who is the title sponsor, Together or More. Go check them out over at togetherormore.com. That's my day job. That'd be helpful if you go watch a video or two. I'll sign off as I always do, for Brady, for Alan, for Matt. Boomer.
Suit it.